here, live from Mexico City. We're gonna talk about Barbados today. I'll be right back. Hi, and welcome to this edition of ACM Live. I'm from Mexico City. My name's Pauline Joseph, and today we're gonna discuss Barbados because it is super important for some of you guys who may not know. I am half Bajan, so in this session today, not to worry. I have every right to have the conversation I'm about to have. So let's get to it. Just a reminder, I'm Pauline Joseph. I am the CEO of AC Marketing, and I decided to start this ACM live show because there's so many opinions out there, and today we're gonna look at data. So specifically, when it comes to data, we're looking at LinkedIn and we're looking at Barbados because in our previous session, I looked at Trinidad and Tobago, and in the comment section, we did have someone asking about Barbados. So let's go. All right. So I'm going to go straight into it. Obviously, at some point in time, an opinion is going to be there. It's just the nature of it. But 99.9% of this show is definitely going to be data. So you may have missed what I did in the past. We're going to the back end of LinkedIn. There are two sides to this. We're going to look at LinkedIn Ad Manager, which gives you free data. I double checked. You can actually access this just by having an account. You don't need to enter your credit card details. You just go into I'm not going to go into my LinkedIn profile because there's sensitive data there. But if you go into your profile and you have a drop down, you'll see the advertising option on it. So for this, we're just going to go a general creation for an ad because this is how you get access to the information. Let's bear in mind, LinkedIn is a platform for money, a pay for platform money. I'm just going to double check to let you know how much money that is. So Microsoft acquired LinkedIn in 2016, so 10 years ago. And there was an annual fiscal year, which is June 30th, 2025. There was upwards of 9% year over year of $17 billion in profit for Microsoft. Unfortunately, they don't separate the two, but there is a report that said their profit margin is 60%. So LinkedIn does not need more of your money. So be mindful when it comes to setting up these things. You want to be able to do it for information purposes, not to lose money. As I said before, anytime you want to do these things, definitely without question, never choose run continuously from a start date because let's be honest, a lot of us have so many things to do, especially in the social media space. So you want to always set a start and end it, even if you have to make changes during the advertising. This is just a side note for people who run ads. But if this is just for knowledge based, you don't need all of these things. But I'm just gonna do it for practice, right? So if you don't see, I just created a lifetime budget of 1,000. So that is you cannot go beyond 1,000. This is what LinkedIn is giving you the parameters, start and end date. So you have to do all of these things in order to access the data. I always choose Classic because Accelerate has AI. And to be honest, the Caribbean and AI information, I have trust issues. Okay. So as you can see, target audience is 33 million. So you know that that means I'm not in the Caribbean because I don't think any of our islands have that so much. None of the English Caribbean speaking Caribbean anyways. So we're going to change this to Barbados. Oh, right. I'm just going to remove Mexico. And there you have it. So Barbados has less than 300,000 people as a population. So just bear in mind, a lot of people may have Barbados as their location. That's how this is targeted, as well as their IP address. So some people may have Barbados as their location, but they have a VPN TBD. But this gives you a general idea of what that looks like. I'm just going to expand this more. All right. So you're looking at 1 day, 7 day, 30 days. So 1 day they're suggesting, by the way, I mentioned earlier, $17 billion in profit. That's not because someone's out there selling. It's because there's a lot of automation and suggestions is why you should have to be spending more money and why they should make more profit. So just be mindful. These are suggestions, 7 days, 800 to 1400, 30 days up to 6,000. This is very tricky, but I use this as a great example as to why LinkedIn is expensive as well as important, right? Because they have a fantastic click through rate for quality leads in the B2B space. So we're gonna scroll down further because generally, ge- like usually 200 is okay to start a campaign, right? But let's just assume not everybody has that money to just put a wide net, because this is literally 200 of generic people across Barbados. So this usually defaults to your profile language that you have, but obviously when I'm running campaigns in Latin America, I change that. So you want to narrow your audience further. And bear in mind, the narrower you get, the more expensive it tends to get, because it means you value this particular audience. So we want to look at the attributes, which is we're going to look at job experience, right? I mentioned this before in my previous live show, which I'm doing this every Monday, by the way. I look at seniority because I don't mean to sound bad, but we're literally just going where the money is. This is not a situation where, you run campaigns with the intention of making money 5 years from now. You want to make money now, okay? It's just the reality. I know it sounds bad, but we're going to go to senior, manager, director, VP, CXO, partner, owner. So there's a little question mark here. So it usually gives you an idea of what that ranking level influence of owner. I'm not going to go into that. That's too technical. So this is where it gets tricky in the Caribbean. And this is why I tell people going out there and looking at information about the US is great, but it's not fully applicable to us in the Caribbean. Because then we're looking at less than half of the 200,000 individuals are decision makers, right? And this would have happened before with my session with Trinidad. The business development side of things usually comes first because the financial sector is one of the biggest employers within the Caribbean. Usually it's right under government, and sales and development does have separate segments, but it's how you enter it as an individual into your profile. So you can go further, or let's just remove this because that's a very small amount. We can look at audience attributes as their experience and their function, meaning you get into the business development of things. So that changes the audience to 10,000, right? So let's say you want to go business development and sales, it goes up to 17,000. Let's head over to operations, 35,000. And let's go into my favorite space, marketing. Wow, only 1,000 more. So, all right. So this gives you an idea of how to set this up. I think is extremely important for you to learn because when it comes to the Caribbean, we are very, very unique in so many ways. But as one of my mentors always used to say, we're unique just like everybody else. Obviously, there's some similarities, but within the terms of this conversation, When it comes to running an ad campaign across Barbados, you have a warning here from LinkedIn, and that's what I was saying earlier. That's why 200,000 is usually okay, because it's literally telling us this 36,000 is not enough to run an ad campaign. So that's a quick insight into how you can use LinkedIn for your sales and marketing. And who knows, possibly when it comes to looking for a job, this may help you. And speaking of which, I'm going to go on a quick break. But when we come back, when I say we, it's just me. We're going to look at the data from the sales navigator perspective, because it's a great insight into how people are engaging on LinkedIn from Barbados and looking at job opportunities as well as sales opportunities. So I'll be right back.
Digital strategy has to be very consistent. You cannot go all over the place. Usually we get the temptation to do so many things because it's so nice, it's so cool, it's so easy, and you're there close to the consumer, and so many things you want to do. But if you're not consistent, you lose relevance. And this is something that AC Marketing has been very disciplined, and I really appreciate that because it's not letting us lose the focus.
And welcome back to this edition of ACM Live. I'm your host, Pauline Joseph, the CEO of AC Marketing Caribbean. And I started this show because I think there's so many opinions out there, and I have a few, but that's not what this show is about. This show is about data. And specifically, today, we're going to talk about what Bajans are doing online. Who are they? Where are they? How are they doing? No, I can't tell you that. So let's head over to Sales Navigator. I'm just going to share my screen again. All right. So just before the break, we were just looking at the LinkedIn, what you might call it, LinkedIn ad manager. Sorry, I use LinkedIn so often and so much. Um, it's insane how much times I say the word LinkedIn every day. All right. So we're going to make sure that you're seeing this. All right. So I'm going to expand this a bit. All right. So within Sales Navigator, which is a paid feature, previously when I looked at the LinkedIn Ad Manager, that was free of charge. You don't need to pay to learn about that. And I think it is extremely important for anybody who's doing sales on LinkedIn to access that data before starting any sort of outreach, because it's super important to learn who your audience is. Specifically to for this session, Sales Navigator, obviously it says it's in in the title. It's a paid feature that allows you to access their data, which, by the way, that's what we're all doing. We're entering our data so they could sell it back to us. Crazy, isn't it? And we're going to look at how we can filter what this looks like. So just before the break, I would have pre-done this. So Sales Navigator has two sections. It has the leads, which is profiles, LinkedIn profiles, and accounts, which are LinkedIn pages, right? LinkedIn pages and profiles are two different things, people. I can't tell you amount of times I've had conversations with marketing managers who don't know the difference. I'm not going to go through that right now, but you're going to see by default what I'm talking about, right? So I'm going to have to reduce this a bit because I am not seeing it properly. Okay. Alrighty. So this is live. So everything is in real time, guys. Um, this is the headquarter location. I chose Barbados, and this is now going to tell you how many accounts, meaning LinkedIn pages, on LinkedIn from Barbados, meaning Bajan companies. So there are a little over 2,000 results of companies that are registered as Barbados for their location, which is extremely interesting because I'm seeing here American Apparel. It's being interesting. Wow. All right. So under Barbados as their headquarter location, we have CDB, which is Caribbean Development Bank. They do have a office in Barbados, and we're looking at 344 employees. So if, let's say, for instance, you have a business that you need to um, have a service that they can solicit from you, you can look at these 344 employees and decipher which is the best individual that you need to reach out and spend your time, because time is money, on how you're going to actually navigate this lead, because the account is one thing, the lead as an individual is another. So I'm going to go through that in just in a second. So Blue Diamonds Resorts, which is not surprising, hospitality is one of the bigger employers in Barbados. CIBC Caribbean, which I saw recently was bought over by another Canadian bank. So the banks, as I mentioned earlier, is also a huge employer. You have the Tourism Authority, University of West Indies, Government of Barbados, which, see, data. So I did mention that the government is the biggest employer usually in the Caribbean. I can't speak for uh, a, you know, other countries and other regions. But you see here, just want to show you how data works, right? So it says 1,500 employees on LinkedIn, but American Apparel is an international company. So the majority of those, I'm making an assumption here based on this data, of most of those employees are international, right? Um, Head over to I just saw one that made me question as well. So CIBC Caribbean. So this is across the Caribbean. So they have employees not just in Barbados. So it may seem like that number is close to Barbados, but this government of Barbados are Bajans, are being employed by Bajans. So I don't want to spend too much time on this, but this is extremely important when it comes to learning about the landscape in Barbados, if that is part of your portfolio and your KPIs. So let's head over to the leads. So leads are LinkedIn profiles. Again, they're not LinkedIn pages. LinkedIn profiles are humans, pages are companies, right? So we are looking at 150,000 plus individuals who are, which is very interesting because in the ad data, there was 200,000, but this has 150,000. Anyways, so what I mentioned before in my session in Trinidad, one of the things that I learned while doing the LinkedIn training sessions for the Sales Navigator is they've seen through their data that people who recently post on LinkedIn are more than likely going to respond to your messages compared to those who haven't. So a lot of us, meaning 150,000 individuals, would have said, okay, I'm on this platform, let me do this thing because I have to. I got an email, I think almost 15 plus years ago, saying, hey, your friend just joined LinkedIn, and you're like, whatever, what's this? So a lot of people just join, but they don't necessarily engage with the content, or they don't necessarily post. So in order for you to not waste your time, you want to be able to actually reach out to individuals who are on the platform. So that's the equivalent of you walking into a room and 80% of people there are just there to get free stuff. Let's be honest. You know who you are. When you go to these conferences and you're like, let me get a free bag, let me get a free bottle. And then the other 20% are there to make business and find business. And this is what this is. So the difference between that and this is you don't have to get dressed and sit down in traffic to do that. Hey, you just click a filter button. And you see what that looks like, right? You can go into further filtering by looking at the individual entry level. Now, this is interesting because I know this individual from the space in Barbados because I mentioned before. I have a Bajan passport. And I know this person is not in entry level, but that's because they have 1 year in their role, and their role right now is director of sales and marketing. So that's very interesting when it comes to data. So data, I think, is never wrong. I think it's more along the lines of how people are actually entering the information and how they're engaging with the platform. So those types of things are you have to be mindful. But I say use the filters first, and then when you've exhausted that, then you go beyond that to see what that looks like. So You can have the experience manager filter that's giving you 20 results, which means you can go in there based on what you want to accomplish with your sales. This is a great example, Julia Ann Sargent. Um, this is someone who follows my page, so they will more than likely engage because they're aware and have brand awareness of my company. So this is an example of how you can filter this information. Quick note: one of the things that LinkedIn also states is when someone changes their jobs, and we have 405 individuals who've done so recently, they're more than likely to be open to have a conversation with you about changing a supplier, starting a new service. So, this is the type of information that's extremely important for you to decipher how to manage your time, because sending 400 messages on LinkedIn is a lot of time, but at the same time, what's the alternative, right? Jumping in the car and sitting down in 2 hour traffic to possibly speak to two individuals, and one of them wasn't really honest about their job role and how much actual quotation they have. Budget, anyways, based on a true story. So, yeah. So, I would say to close this off, when it comes to utilizing the technology, the LinkedIn Sales Navigator is a great way for you to decipher who to reach out to and to spend your time, actually, because the bottom line is there's only so much time in a day. So this data is going to help you figure out how to get your bang for your buck, because time is money. So the less time you spend on something, the more time you have to do things you love. I don't know. I was confusing with that. But, anyways, when we come back, I'm going to tie this all in together with the ACM Live service, which is our retainer that allows you to use content to reach out these individuals who may seem so far away from you, but the reality is all it takes is the click of a go live button, and you will have a sale based on a true story. I'll be right back. And welcome back to this edition of ACM Live from Mexico City. And we're here to talk about how many Bajans are online. So, if you missed the break, sorry about that. Well, missed what I said before the break. This live show will be available across LinkedIn and YouTube for you to find out how I navigated the LinkedIn platforms through the LinkedIn Ad Manager, which showed that, spoiler alert, there are a little over 200,000 individuals on the platform from Barbados, or in the location of Barbados. And with Sales Navigator, there are upwards of I think 4,000 individuals within senior level roles. And all these things are available to you. The LinkedIn Ad Manager is free. The LinkedIn Sales Navigator you have to pay for, but I do believe I have some free intro packages if you want. So you could check any comments, just comment LinkedIn Sales Navigator, and I can send you the invite to get a free 1 month trial for the LinkedIn Sales Navigator. By the way, I'm not associated with LinkedIn in any way. I just found the platform very useful when it comes to B2B sales. And a lot of people found their jobs on here. I've hired a lot of people on LinkedIn. So let's head over to this sales conversation. So we can't have this conversation without talking about, oh, where did I go? Here we go. I want to expand this more. Okay. So we can't have the conversation around data without speaking about why I want to have this conversation about do you know how many people from Barbados are on LinkedIn is because a lot of us are underutilizing this platform, not knowing how to navigate it, not knowing, what you can actually do when it comes to profitability profitability profitability. Oh my goodness, I'm learning Spanish, guys, so it's muy difícil to say some words in English right now. It's very hard. Profitability. Okay, that's the word. Right. So when it comes to your time, and time is money, we want to look at how you can maximize being able to communicate with those 200,000 plus people from Barbados. And what we offer at ACM Marketing is the 1 hour LinkedIn live show retainer, which allows you to do something like this, which I'm doing right now, run a live stream for an hour. And from that, you get a month's worth of content, which, let's be honest, people keep talking about artificial intelligence, AI this, AI that. But the reality is, a lot of us are hip to know what is happening with the genuine people who are creating content. You can now tell, kudos to you. A lot of us don't, but a lot of us can tell, us being me, when something is written by AI or some no person that someone's paying in Philippines, because the human side of it is very hard to replicate, and that's where the live streams come in. We're able to not just have that personability with the live show, we create blogs, we create inbound messaging, we create countless of images because my facial expression, as my friends say, I have facial diarrhea. That alone creates just countless amounts of images for these live streams. In addition to that, you have shorter videos. So from a 60-minute video, you have, at least 10 30-second videos. You have social media posts as well as blogs. So it's super important for all of us to be able to not just create content, but create content that people want to see and people want to engage with. So these are just some of the things that we are able to create with the live show streams that we do. You could check out our website, which is golive.acmmarketingcaribbean.com, and there you will see all the information. So I want to close off by saying, you know, for those who may be looking for jobs, it's okay. Just navigate the LinkedIn platform because I'm not even looking for a job. I'm fine and secure in mine. The reality is I'm so intrigued by how the job landscape is. I've seen a shift of individuals, well, not individuals, companies, which are called accounts on the LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Folks are now putting Mexico City as a place that they're willing to hire because they know a lot of people are moving there or have moved there and the cost of living is cheaper. So they advertise for jobs there from the US. So they will hire you as a contractor. So what you can do is look at ways for you to say, okay, maybe I need to change my location. And I don't, maybe if you have the ability, move in order to be able to look for that job. And when it comes to looking for new business within the B2B space, you have to, I mean, it's unfortunate or fortunate, you have to be consistent with your content and you have to be daily. So that's why these live streams are extremely important for every single business. So I hope this helped you in some way. And I'll see you next week. We're going to cover another island, one that says, Wagwan. So I'll see you next week, Monday. Bye.